Okay, hey guys, Mr. Strawberry here with a review for you. This review is going to be on the Coolermaster Notepal U3. It's a notebook cooling pad, but with quite a few different features that I don't really see in your, you don't really see in your average notebook cooling, in your usual cooling pad that you find. For starters, this has three 80mm fans on it that are completely removable. So you can have them, you can take them all off and just have it as a stand, so not necessarily cooling. I mean, I've got it set up here with my laptop on, and if you have a look, it's not flat, so you've got a lot of airflow that will be coming in underneath. So even without having your fans on, you are going to notice a slight improvement in temperatures. But not only that is that the fans can also be put wherever you want on them, in whatever configuration you want. So for example, mine, I've got mine set up nicely for down there because that's where all my vents are for the laptop. The fans are also controllable by speed, and they have, it says on here, their fan speed is between 950 RPM and 1800 RPM. So if you've got a low-end laptop like mine, you can turn it right down low, still have improved cooling, but not have any noise from that more cooling. Because normally, definitely with full desktop tower computers, it tends to be a case of the more fans you add, the louder it's going to be. That's no longer the case with this. I don't have to have, you know, your average notebook cooler will actually have sort of something like 220mm fans on it, and you end up being quite loud, and they tend to be just fixed in place. So it's like your laptop, although it needs the cooling, or you would like to have that extra cooling, it's giving more than it actually needs to, and you want to turn it down a bit, but you can't often do that, which is quite a good advantage for this. It also, the most interesting feature, includes storage for your notebook. If you take the fans off, you can put your laptop in underneath and then secure it in place with this designed by Coolermaster elastic strap. So, which is very handy, it means it's more mobile and more portable than most of your average notebook coolers out there, because quite often, like I said, when you've got the fans fixed to them, you definitely can't fit it inside like you could on this one. So this allows it to be a lot more portable, which I will be testing out the portability of that in the next couple of days, which is going to be a very fun thing to do. So this laptop cooler is, the laptop you see on it right now is a 15.6 inch laptop. It's just your one-of-the-mill sort of, it's your average laptop. It's the one I use to take to college with me, and it's got Core i3, one in Windows 8, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gig solid state drive in it. So it's sort of your average sort of laptop. It hasn't got any dedicated graphics to it or anything. It just uses the HD 3000 chip that is included on the graphics card, but hey, shouldn't be too much of a problem, should it? So without further ado, let's get to some testing, shall we? Right guys, so let's have a look at the actual product itself. So the whole entire thing is a brushed aluminium, which is very nice. It's nice and it's got a bit of sturdy, it's got a bit of bend to it, but overall it is nice and sturdy, and even the most heaviest of laptops out there, I will have no problem putting it on. It's got a rubber grip here to help it keep it in place and stop it from slipping and sliding, and that has the Coolermaster logo on it. It also has rubber grips here and here for your laptop, and underneath it's got some more rubber feet as well. Just around here we have a movable fan controller, basically this bit here, and I'll just increase brighten this a bit on the camera so you can see. So now it simply clips into place. Pure and simple. And on that, if I keep it attached it'll be easier, you have a little dial here to go increase the speed up to the max and lower it. Here itself we have the USB port, which has a pass-through as well, so if you're one of them people that have only a few USB ports, for example, on your laptop, and every one of them ones are vital to you, then even by plugging it in you don't lose a USB port because you've still got one there, which is very handy. Underneath we have the 3 fans. Now these are 80mm fans and they're quite low profile ones as well, and if I was to just do that, as I said, you can remove them. So if you take a look at this, you have a little clip here, and by pressing it up and down you see that them 2 little clips there go down, and that allows you to easily plug it in and unplug it again. Very, very simple stuff, guys. They're nice high quality fans, I can tell you that as well. They look nice, you've got a nice fan grill on them, so they do look as if they've got a lot of performance on them, and like I said just a second ago, they are fully removable like so. And now what I have, instead of a notepad cooler, I now just have a notepad stand where with it at its angle, which I believe is something like 45 degrees, although I could be wrong on that one. Yeah, it's definitely not 45 degrees, but I believe it's from like 10 or 20 degrees. Then it's at a slight angle, which makes it easier to type on. I love typing on stuff when they're at this much of an angle. But let's go over the notepad storage, shall we? So by turning it this way round, and if I go over here and grab my laptop and put it in place, it's got grip underneath. So if I was to take the laptop away again, you can see there it's got some grip there to help hold the laptop in place, which is very handy if you're going to be putting a very expensive laptop in here. You're going to want to know that it's going to stay in place. And with the included rubber band, it is simply just put it over. Now this might look like a strange way of doing it, but there's a reason to do it like this. By stretching it across like so, it gives it much more sturdy grip because it's more stretched across. So now I can transport both the cooler itself and the laptop without any problems at all. You know, I haven't got to account for what is effectively 2 laptops now, because if I couldn't do that I'd have to take that separately and it would take up twice as much room. So this is actually a very handy feature to have. So that I really do like. Now, there's one of the things that really steps this apart from other similar priced notepad coolers. So now without further ado, I'll set up the cooling again and we'll get on to some tests, shall we? Okay guys, hopefully you can see that properly. It looks quite good on the little tiny screen on the back of my camera, but we know how accurate that is. So this is my testing I was doing for the CPU. This is my final version of testing I was doing, I have to say, for my CPU. As you can see, I'm running OCCT using a Limpack to test the CPU 100% and 90% of the RAM for, the duration says 1 hour, but I was actually testing it for half an hour. So how was I getting the temperature readings? Wow. I was using HW monitor to get all the temperature readings. As you can see, it has it all. The 0 degrees, ignore. Quite frankly, that's something that I've seemed to find happens a lot with laptops. A lot of laptops I've got given to repair, or just what I've owned in the past, have always come up with a 0 degrees somewhere to do with, like, I think it's like motherboard or something, where it has a sensor that's not active or something. You can see the temperatures for the i3. So what I done for that was, after half an hour I got the maximum and the minimum temperature, and I worked out the middle part. Basically, so at the moment it would the average between the two of them, and that was the temperature I used in my graphs. And then I looked at the CPU, SSD as well, which is here, which is the Kingston drive, and that ran at 25 at the moment, and that's what I took. Now, I did mention about, interesting. Sorry, I just realised I haven't actually got it plugged into the wall, so this is going to be eating my battery like mad. So, but anyway, this isn't actually one of the testings this test I will not actually be using in the review. This is one I've set up just for this clip. So, with the SSD, I did do testing on it to try and make it run as hot as I could, but with it being an SSD, I failed basically. At one point I was running about 5 or 6 different read-write benchmarks on the Kingston drive, all at the same time, and it done nothing to the temperature. Yeah, so I really couldn't sort that out really. That was a slight niggle on my side. So basically all I'm doing for now is taking the maximum temperature from the same test as the CPU, and that's just going to be the temperatures that it sat at. Okay. Right, now let's talk about results. Okay, let's talk results. So first we have our idle test. Now, before I put the graph on screen so you can no longer see my ugly face, I'm just going to say something. I haven't actually explained what I done for the idle test. All I actually done was, had my laptop sat here, how it is at the moment, with HW monitor open for half an hour. So it's not really that much of a realistic test, I will admit, because not a lot of people will sit and have their laptop like this for half an hour. But because, you know, laptops aren't desktops, they have a different sort of market area. Sort of, you know, quite a lot of hardware enthusiasts, for example, I know people that never turn their computer off, whereas they have a laptop and that spends hardly any time on, let alone off. So, let alone being stayed on. So it's not really that much of a realistic test, but it still was a test that actually revealed something quite nice about idle temps. If you are someone that do leave no idle temps on. Now, for example though, if you was going to be using something like not Internet Explorer hopefully, but if you was going to be browsing the internet, going on Facebook, going on YouTube, something like that, then this is the sort of temperature you'll get anyway. So, because even with i3s, YouTube, well, you know, Firefox, Google Chrome, Safari Opera, Internet Explorer, there's no actual real, as far as I'm aware, web browser that is actually makes an i3 go, oh my god, stop doing this to me, you're working me too hard. You know, so it's like, the temperatures will be roughly the same. They'll be within margin of error, within 0.0 degrees of each other, I would say, actually. Okay, so if I now remember in Sony Vegas to put the graph on screen so you can no longer see me, I will now talk about the results. So, what we have here is default, as you can see, is the default configuration. So what I talked about earlier, where I just had my laptop sat on my desk doing nothing. So nothing sort of cool in it. I only had the fan included within it, is what I mean to say there. So the stand, the Coolermaster stand, not there. So the CPU sat at idle at around 61, at an average of 61 degrees. Now, this does not include delta. If you want to know, I should have put this in the graph, but my Excel skills leave a lot to be desired, and I forgot as well. But the actual room temperature at the time was 18 degrees. So if you want to take that array from 61 degrees, and then you'll get what is roughly the delta temperature. So the average for it sat at idle was 61 degrees, whereas for this SSD it was 34 degrees. So that is actually quite hot for an SSD. Certainly the hottest I've ever seen an SSD get, I will admit that. Now, if you look at the results, actually how they are at the moment, step by step, the temperatures don't change that much. You've got to look at the bigger picture. So next we do have with stand, which basically is with the U3, but without the fans attached. So I took the fans off and done that. You see you get a nice 4 degrees drop on temperature for the CPU, which is very, very nice, I must say. Really not bad. So that gives you a CPU temperature of average of 57 degrees with an SSD temperature of 33 degrees. Moving on to where low fans, that is where I put all 3 fans on in the perfect configuration for my laptop, so they're blowing into every single vent I had on my laptop, and turned the temperature right down with the temperature, with the speed adjuster. I turned the fans right down, but included with the U3, and the temperature dropped a further 3 degrees to 54 degrees for the CPU, and for the SSD it dropped a nice 4 degrees down to 29 degrees. This is where we see the biggest drop. We see a drop of 9 degrees on the CPU here, and I have rerun these tests, I will say, just to make sure. When I turn the fans right up to the maximum temperature, we see a CPU temperature of 45 degrees Celsius and a SSD temperature of 27 degrees Celsius. So what do these temperatures mean? I'm back on screen and I have got the results there, so if I keep looking over there, that is why. Yeah, so what do these results mean? Basically, going from, like I said, if you've got to really look at the bigger picture, each step doesn't really seem that big of a deal. So sort of having the U3 there but no fans attached, you only see a temperature of 4 degrees, which is nice, but it's not something you would expect when you're paying for something to cool your laptop down. You would have thought it might be a bit more, but when you actually think about the idle temperature of the CPU was 61 degrees at average, and now it's gone down. If I put the fans on and turn the fans up to high, if I'm really that sort of, and I'm going to have to use this term, anal, if I'm that anal about temperatures and I want the coolest possible temperatures, then that is what that highest fan setting is for. So you're going to turn it right up, and you see your temperature drop to 45 degrees. Now a quick bit of maths will tell me that that is a 16 degree temperature. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments, because I'm not really good at just doing maths off the top of my head, I will admit that. I should have written that out before doing the recording. But anyway, yeah, so you see a nice big drop. So with that, the Notepal G3, you actually see why it is such a necessary thing to have. Now, the SSD temperature, like I said, 34 degrees is the hottest I've actually ever seen an SSD run. I've got 2 in my main system here. They don't even have any active cooling on it, and they don't go above 25 degrees. I don't know if that's just because maybe the sensor on it only goes up to 25 degrees, but I've never seen them go above that. And like I said, they have no active cooling on it, so I don't know what's up there, but 34 degrees I think is the hottest I have seen an SSD run, and that's sort of the hard drive territory right now. That is how hot a hard drive would run, a full size 2.5 inch hard drive would run in a 3.25 inch hard drive would run in a full size case with active cooling. That's the sort of temperature I used to see on an old Samsung F3 drive I have, for example, I had before I ditched hard drives. So that's just to give you an idea of how warm it was, but that saw an overall temperature drop of 7 degrees as it went down from 34 to 27 overall, which is very, very nice. So idle, the U3 definitely has some sort of advantage on it, like I said. So if you're just browsing the web, so if I was to now open Firefox and go on Facebook and talk to my many friends, 4 friends, I will kick the tripod and almost break my camera. No, if I go on there, then it's nice to know that my CPU is running that little bit cooler, but this is not really what this product's made for. So let's move on to the maximum temperatures. Let's move on to the load temperatures. Okay, now it's time for the results for my load testing. Now, again, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to put up with my awesome skills in Microsoft Excel. I'm so awesome at it. So let's bring this graph up already. Again, sorry about the squeaky chair. I have put oil on it, but it doesn't stop squeaking. But anyway. So you see that the CPU in all instances was running significantly warmer than it was at idle. But let's have a look at this. So as I've already said, for load testing I done OCCT Limpak for 30 minutes. It seemed like it done the most consistent results. I did try a few different testing methods, as I've already explained, but let's just go straight onto the temperatures here. So the default configuration is the same as last time. Just the laptop sat on the desk with nothing other than what the manufacturer provided cooling it. The CPU was sat at a nice average of 71 degrees. Now, one thing I will say is that at 72 degrees my CPU was getting throttled from being 100% utilised to 80% utilised. So it would run hotter than 71 degrees. I would say if it weren't getting throttled, it would probably have been running around 80 degrees, but because it was getting throttled, sadly it never ran as hot as it could have potentially ran. For this SSD we've got a nice 33 degrees Celsius, which is actually 1 degree cooler than what it was running before, which is interesting to say the least, but not to worry. Once I then put the laptop on the stand and took the fans off, so it was just got slightly more air coming to it with the included fan in the laptop, I saw, as you can see, the temperature for the CPU dropped 2 degrees down to 69 degrees. Any one of you laughed then? I'm very disappointed in you. But the SSD stayed at the same 33 degrees, so maybe there's nothing there. Again, I did try and keep the room temperature at around 18 degrees, just so you know, for these tests. So I'm not entirely too sure what happened with the SSD temperature not changing and actually being cooler than it was at idle, but hey. I then attached the fans and put low fans on, and the temperature dropped to 66 degrees. So that was a 3 degrees drop, which is actually quite good. And the SSD also dropped 2 degrees. Now turning the fans up to high, we see a drop of I was about to say a drop of 64 degrees in temperature, but we definitely did not see that. We see a drop of 2 degrees with it going down to 64 degrees on the CPU, and a drop of 1 degrees on the SSD. Now, I'm back. What do these results mean? Well, keeping the results up so I can keep referring to them easily. Why was it, firstly, you might be wondering, why is the SSD running so much warmer than what it was to begin with at idle? Because this was a CPU stress test, not a SSD stress test. So why were they running a bit so much warmer? Well, the reason for this is, guys, what you've got to remember is this laptop is a very, very closed up in case. So if I was to lift it up like that, you've got very little cooling there. Even with the fans on and at a high temperature, you still have the very little speed. Now, what this basically means is that even though, because the CPU's running hotter, everything in there is going to run hotter. Everything is going to run hotter. If you leave a computer, even sort of, I mean, I've got a pretty big computer sat here, pretty powerful, loads of fans in it. But even if I leave that on idle, on load, long enough, I will see the actual temperature of the entire case rise. Another perfect example of this was in college last year. I had a unit where I had to do 3D animation, and as part of it, I'd done a massive 3D environment, and it took 3 days of my CPU being at 100% load. Literally, that's 24 hours a day for them 3 days, so a full 72 hours. Or thereabouts, of being at full load to render what I needed to render, and I did see case temperatures rise. Everything in my case, even though my graphics card was at idle, that was running about 3 or 4 degrees hotter. At the time I never had a solid state drive, so I had a hard drive, and that was running hotter. Motherboard sensors, they were all hotter. So it's that effect, but it's just in a smaller form factor, so it happens a lot quicker and is a lot more obvious when it does happen. Definitely if you have it sat on your lap as well, then when it gets hot, you really know it gets hot. But that's it. But why was one thing you might be wondering is, why is the actual temperature of the CPU, for example, not changed a lot? Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One, like I said, with up until I put the fans on, so that's default and with the stand and no fans underneath, both of them instances the CPU was getting throttled. I don't know why, but they were. So, I mean, even looking at them results, I can even say that doesn't make sense, just because obviously without the stand it was at about 70. It was at 72 degrees. I noticed it getting throttled because I literally did sit here and watch it. And then without the stand, it was at 70 degrees it was getting throttled. So I think it's something to do with fan speed, not actual temperature. So it might be a case of the BIOS spins up the fans when it gets hot, and then when it realises the fan's got to a certain speed, it's like, no, you're doing this. If you want to do this, we're going to turn the CPU down. And it went underclocking the CPU, it just won't allow me to use as much, so that was a random thing really. So that's one of the reasons why the temperature difference doesn't seem that great. If there was a way for me to easily remove that throttle limitation, you'll see a much bigger gaps in the graph. Second reason is the way the cooling is set up on my laptop. Now, technically the CPU is passively cooled, not actively cooled, because the fan itself is not over the CPU. the CPU has heat pipes over it, which then go up to a fan just up there. So and the actual CPU part, where the CPU is, doesn't have a vent over it. It's the actual fan that has the vent, not the CPU. So even having them, all I'm doing is getting more air to the fan. I'm not in this predicament. I'm not actually getting more air to the CPU itself, which is why the temperature's never changed that much. On a higher end laptop, like a gaming laptop for example, that has cooling specifically designed to be loud and actually cool the CPU, you'd actually find that you'll have much bigger differences in the temperature area. So that sums up the results. I'm going to now move on to the conclusion. Okay, hey guys, time for the conclusion. So, I'm going to try and keep this conclusion nice and quick because I have a lot of work I have to be getting on with at the moment. It's all caught up with me at once. I've got about 5 different things on the go at the moment. So, right, what is my conclusion? Now, I'm going to start off by saying this retails for around £30 here in the UK. If you're watching this from anywhere else in the world, I'm not a currency converting genius, so yeah, it'll probably be around £30 here in the UK. It varies between £25 and I think the most expensive I saw it was £31 or £32, and you've got to, obviously a lot of places where you've got to factor in post and packaging, but the average was sort of around £30. So, what's my opinion on this? I'm a little disappointed, but that isn't Coolermaster's fault. As I mentioned in the load testing, my laptop here, in all its glory, was actually throttling without it. So in that sense of the mind, I actually really like it because it means I get the full potential out of my laptop, which I never got before I had this. But obviously, it disappointed me testing wise because I couldn't do the test as well as I could because of the throttling that was happening. So that's not Coolermaster's fault, but it is actually a good thing that it was throttling. In real world situations, it's a good thing that my laptop was throttling because now I know if I ever want to do anything demanding on my laptop, to make sure I have it sat on here with the fans turned up, or just with the fans on. So now I know doing that, and I can actually get the full use out of my laptop. Whereas before, before doing these tests, I never realised that's what my laptop done because I'd never done anything on there that actually made it throttle. So that's really good. Now, one thing I'm going to say actually, what I never said in the testing, is why I didn't do any game testing. Now, mainly this isn't a gaming laptop, so although I can play stuff like Left 4 Dead 2 and stuff on there, because I have tried when I was at college, funnily enough, yeah, I never done it because it's not a gaming laptop. It wouldn't have been that effective. The CPU maxes out anyway, gaming, so there's no difference in temperatures, which is why I never had done any of that. But anyway, conclusion of the thing. So yeah, I was disappointed on the fact that my laptop throttled, but that's not Coolermaster's fault, and it's not actually overall on this product. This product actually it actually shows that this product can actually help on the lower end laptops. This is actually probably the highest end laptop I've actually ever owned myself, and it's the first time I've come across the throttling problem before. I've never heard of anyone ever saying that their laptop's been throttled, and I am going after the weekend get in contact with Lenovo about it because I don't want a laptop that throttles. So this is, for that reason, I actually really like this. I mean, even when you look at on the idle tests, you can see the temperature change it makes it idle alone. It was something like 16 degrees difference just from having this turned, between having it sat on my desk and having it sat up on there with the fans turned right up. 16 degrees difference is a huge, huge thing. So having that meant it was very effective for me, to say the least. Now, one thing I will say, that makes it worth the 30 quid for me. I would actually prefer it in black instead of silver. That's my only complaint really. It comes in black and in silver, and obviously silver it does stand out a bit, and silver looks a bit nicer in the fact that you've got just the plain sort of aluminium, brushed aluminium style. So whereas with the black, you can tell it's been painted. So although it's still got that brushed aluminium look to it, doesn't quite look as authentic. But I still prefer the black version to the silver one. But there you go. Now, it had some very interesting features that I liked. When I first sort of was like, when I was looking over the spec sheet for this, and I noticed the whole being able to carry your laptop into it, like coming with that little elastic band. This one here that allows you to carry your laptop actually inside it. At first I was thinking that's a bit gimmicky really. I don't know why you don't do that, but then actually once I got the laptop and I tried it out, although my bag broke so I couldn't actually try it out. Yeah, it was not really that much of a problem. I will say, because I don't think I mentioned this in the video, it's a bit hard. I'm filming this about half a week after filming everything else, so you have to bear this on me. I can't remember exactly what I said. Now, when about a week after first getting this in from Coolermaster, I had all the results ready to go, and I was I was getting ready to film the entire thing, and then all of a sudden, when I was cycling to college with my laptop in my bag, only my laptop, I never had this with it, it was just my laptop, and I was cycling to college, and without me realising, my bag actually ripped open, as in it ripped at the seams, not just the zip come undone or something, the actual seams ripped, and it was raining, and my laptop got wet, and the SSD inside broke as a result. Out of all the things of it to have broken, it was the SSD, which was weird, but I suppose it depends exactly where the water got to and whatever else. So, yeah, so I don't have a bag at the moment for college, so I can't even take my laptop in, let alone actually test it to see how much of a difference it makes now. So, sadly I can't do the mobility testing that I wanted to do, but you've got to love Mother Nature and all that sort of stuff, haven't you? Now, so yeah, but going back onto the point I was trying to make, at first it seemed gimmicky to me, but now I do see the point in it now, sort of thing. Like, once I'd sort of got the product and I had a look over it, I was like, yeah, I can see why it does it. So, I can see why they included it, and I do actually think it is a good idea, and for 30 quid you're actually getting a lot for your money with that in mind. So there's not a lot of other 30 quid notepad coolers out there I know of that allow you to that can integrate so well with your laptop when it comes to carrying it about. Because sort of, for me, my ideal usage scenario for the U3 would be to have it sat on my desk like it is now, and that's where it will stay. It will only be my laptop that I'll take away. Now, one thing that really does offer its advantages over is that I can keep that area of the desk clean, because I'm quite prone to just like completely covering my desk and stuff and not being able to put my laptop on it when it comes to doing college work. Having this there helps that. But a lot of other people, when they have notepad coolers, they carry them around with them, and they use it on their lap and other stuff. And for all usage scenarios I can think of for the U3, and they all seem to fit in with the U3. There's nothing I'd actually say the U3 will come down, will fall over on. Possibly, though, the really high-end laptops. So I'm literally talking about sort of like your MSI gaming laptops that are over £1.5 grand here in the UK. You know, they're more expensive than your MacBooks, and they've got highest end laptop i7s, highest end NVIDIA graphics in them. I think there's one with 32 gigs of RAM in that I saw, but you know, them sort of ones, the 17.3 inch ones, they're massive. Them ones, I think I would personally have a higher end notebook cooler one. That's just because you need a bit more powerful fans, I would reckon, on that. But without testing it, I can't say for sure. So, for what I do know for sure is there's not a lot this laptop cooler will fall down on, and as a result, I do really like it. I would happily spend £30 on this. And it had actually been something I was looking into getting at the time when I was asked to review this as well. So I was actually sat there thinking, should I actually get a laptop cooler? And when I asked to review it and they said yes, I was like, yeah, got what I need. And I am very impressed with it. Don't think there's much else to say really. Yes, the pass-through USB on what you use to plug it in and out with, it having that pass-through feature that I showed earlier on in the video, that's really nice. I hate using trackpads when I don't have to. If I have the option to use a mouse, I will use a full mouse. So, and when I have a mouse, I'm right-handed, so I always have the mouse plugged in on the right side. So, being able to have I don't think you should be able to see it in the camera, but I've got my speed control there with the USB cable going up next to my power in to a single USB port. That's the only USB port on that side of the laptop. There's another two that side, but I'm not worried about them. There's only one that side. So having it plugged in like that, under normal circumstances, I would lose the functionality of being able to have a mouse. I'd have to use a trackpad or have my mouse cable going all the way around like that, and it won't be very tidy. Whereas this way, if I have my mouse, I can plug it in there, and it'll be perfectly fine. So, and it still works fine. The responsiveness of the mouse doesn't change, anything like that. It's just as if you plugged it into a regular USB port, and I really like that. And it has come in handy. So yeah, there's nothing I can really complain about. One thing I did notice was that actually it is a bit, due to it being aluminium, it isn't quite as sturdy as you would think, and you can bend it. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing though, because when you, like I've already said, I cycled to college with my laptop in my bag under normal circumstances. When I cycle, I don't sit up back straight like that and cycle along. I always sort of hunch down a little bit, get a bit more aerodynamic. I imagine it's more aerodynamic to be a bit hunched down. What I often find is that it's really uncomfortable on my back, because when my laptop is so rock solid, my back ends up digging into a part of it, and it doesn't really spread the load out a lot. So hopefully that'll change on my new bag, what I'm getting. But having this bending, it means that it's the one less thing that I've got pushing against my back. It can bend a little bit, not a lot. I'm not literally saying it can bend in half in the shape of your bag, just to be clear. And that would be a bad thing if it could. But I just mean as in it's got a bit of flex to it, just a tiniest bit of flex to it, which will allow it to be a bit more easy on your back. So I say will be the best one to use, because quite a lot of people do now. You very rarely get them sort of messenger bags with laptops in when they're carrying them by the side like this, or over one shoulder. Most people nowadays, like everyone in my college class, because we have a bring your own device thing, so everyone in our class has to take a laptop with us. They all put them in backpacks. They don't put them in the old style one shoulder bag, sort of briefcase looking bag, and they're all under back. So having it being a bit more easy on your back is definitely a good thing. And with it being aluminium, it is very light as well. I mean, it says 1 kilogram on here, but maybe I'm just strong, because I don't think it is that. It seemed lighter than 1 kilogram. Maybe that includes the fans. So yeah, that's another point. Having the fans removable is really good. So for example, the rooms I go in at college actually tend to be quite cold, and I don't need the fans on there. So in that environment, I just need the raised platform it provides to make it easier for me to type on the laptop. So having the fans removable is good. It means I can leave the fans here when they can be safe, won't get lost or nicked if someone wants to nick 3 fans from you for some random reason. And it also means that you can you're not carrying more weight when you need to, which makes it that little bit more portable. So all in all, very impressed with this product. There really isn't a thing I can think wrong with it. Don't get me wrong, there might be something once you get to the higher end laptops, but on this lower end laptop, I would definitely recommend it. It has made my laptop using experience a lot better. So for that reason, I can recommend it. You know, for 30 quid, it does what it does really. It does what it says on the box. It cools my notepad. It cools it to the point that I can actually use it to the extent it's meant to. So for that reason, I do like it. So yeah, all in all, recommend this product. So thanks for watching this. I'll be back soon for more reviews, unboxings and other stuff I do on my channel. Got a lot of stuff on my channel. I've just switched to a new YouTube layout for my channel. So now finally after about 6 months of working on my background, I've got to start again. So that's great. Thank you, YouTube. So yeah, thanks for watching my review for the Notepal U3 from Coolermaster. Remember, comment, rate, subscribe. If you have any questions, please ask in the comment section. I will try and answer them, or try and get an answer for you. So yeah, if you have any questions regarding this product, do get in contact. Thanks for watching and goodbye.